Imagine a car sitting abandoned for weeks in the Hollywood Hills. Nobody seems to know who owns it. Eventually, the vehicle is towed away. Months later, investigators open the front trunk, and what they discover turns an already disturbing missing person investigation into one of the most shocking murder cases in Los Angeles. The victim was 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The person now accused of killing her is a young musician who had been building a rapidly growing career under the name D4vd. His real name is David Anthony Burke. Before I proceed, hit the like button and comment under the comments section. And if you are new here, please subscribe. Thank you. And according to prosecutors, what happened between Burke and Celeste ended in murder, dismemberment, and an attempt to conceal her body. But Burke has pleaded not guilty. So what exactly happened? And what evidence has prosecutors presented against him? This is the story of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was a teenager from Lake Elsinore, California. Her disappearance became the beginning of a mystery that would eventually stretch for months. According to investigators, Celeste had a relationship with Burke. Prosecutors allege that the relationship began online when Celeste was much younger and later became sexual. That alleged relationship is central to the prosecution's case. Burke, meanwhile, was becoming increasingly successful as a musician. His music career had exploded online, and prosecutors later argued that his growing fame and career created something he desperately wanted to protect. But before any of that evidence emerged, Celeste was simply a missing teenager. And for her family, the question was simple: where was she? Then came one of the strangest parts of the case. Investigators eventually connected Celeste to a Tesla associated with Burke. The vehicle had reportedly been abandoned in the Hollywood Hills and remained there for an extended period before being impounded. On September 8, 2025, Celeste's decomposed remains were discovered inside the vehicle's front trunk at a Los Angeles tow yard. Investigators now had a body, but they also had a much bigger question. How had a missing 14-year-old ended up inside a vehicle connected to a rising music star? And more importantly, who had put her there? The investigation quickly moved beyond a missing person case. Police began examining Burke's home, his vehicles, his digital activity, and his purchases. And prosecutors say that investigation uncovered a series of disturbing pieces of evidence. One of the most important locations became Burke's garage. According to testimony presented during the preliminary hearing, investigators found evidence of blood in the garage. Forensic testing allegedly connected some of that blood to Celeste. Investigators also examined an inflatable pool found in connection with the garage. According to testimony, tiny fragments from the pool were consistent with pieces found among the remains. Prosecutors allege that Burke used the garage to dismember Celeste's body. But there is an important distinction here. The prosecution has presented evidence they say connects Celeste to the garage. The defense has challenged aspects of the evidence and its handling. And investigators did not recover the alleged murder weapon. That missing weapon could become an important issue when the case eventually reaches a jury. Then investigators found something else: online purchases. According to testimony, Burke ordered items including chainsaws, a body bag, an inflatable pool, and a shovel. Prosecutors say some of these purchases were made shortly after Celeste's death. And investigators allege that Burke used an alias when placing some of the orders. But prosecutors also say the purchases were connected to Burke through payment information and delivery records. To the prosecution, these purchases are not random. They form part of a timeline that prosecutors say suggests preparation to conceal a body. But once again, these are allegations presented by the prosecution. The defense has pleaded not guilty and will have the opportunity to challenge the evidence at trial. Perhaps the most important part of the prosecution's alleged motive came from messages between Burke and Celeste. According to evidence presented in court, their relationship had become increasingly volatile. Prosecutors allege that shortly before Celeste's death, she threatened to expose their relationship. And this is where the prosecution's theory becomes especially serious. Prosecutors argue that Burke feared the relationship becoming public could destroy his rapidly growing career. Messages presented in court allegedly showed Celeste threatening to expose him. Her debut album was also approaching its release date. According to prosecutors, this created a motive for murder. But motive is not the same thing as proof. A person can have a motive and still not commit a crime. That's why the prosecution has had to present physical, digital, and forensic evidence alongside its theory of motive. And that's exactly what happened during the preliminary hearing. Investigators presented evidence involving DNA, blood, digital records, and vehicle movements. Prosecutors say Celeste's blood was found in areas connected to Burke. Investigators also examined his Tesla. The vehicle became particularly important because Celeste's remains were eventually discovered inside it. Police also investigated Burke's movements and digital footprint. According to prosecutors, his phone and vehicle were connected to locations relevant to the investigation. Investigators also testified about Celeste's passport card being found in a remote area that Burke allegedly visited. Piece by piece, prosecutors attempted to construct a timeline, but the defense has another argument. There was no eyewitness who allegedly saw Burke kill Celeste, and investigators did not recover the weapon they believe was used to kill her. Those gaps could become extremely important at trial. After months of investigation, Burke was arrested in April 2026. He was charged with first-degree murder and other serious offenses related to Celeste's death. Burke pleaded not guilty. That means the allegations against him remain allegations, unless and until a jury finds him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. His case then moved toward a preliminary hearing, and that hearing became one of the most revealing moments in the investigation. For several days, prosecutors presented witnesses and evidence, attempting to convince the judge that the case should proceed to trial. On July 27, 2026, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Charlene Olmedo ruled that prosecutors had presented enough evidence for Burke to stand trial. The judge's decision does not mean Burke was found guilty. It means the court determined that there was sufficient probable cause for the case to proceed. The charges include first-degree murder, continuous sexual abuse of a child, and unlawful mutilation of human remains. Burke remains in custody and continues to deny the allegations. His next major court appearance is scheduled for August 31, 2026, and the case is expected to move toward a full trial. But even after everything investigators have presented, major questions remain. Exactly what happened inside that garage? Where is the alleged murder weapon? What happened between Burke and Celeste during the final hours of her life? And why was her body left inside a vehicle for months? The prosecution believes the evidence tells a clear story. The defense will argue that the evidence does not prove that story beyond a reasonable doubt. And ultimately, that is the standard that matters. Not internet theories, not social media speculation, not how disturbing the allegations sound. The evidence presented to a jury will determine whether prosecutors can prove their case. For Celeste's family, however, this case is about much more than courtroom arguments. It is about a 14-year-old girl whose life ended far too soon. It is about a family that spent months waiting for answers. And now, after an investigation that uncovered a Tesla, forensic evidence, digital records, purchases, and a complicated relationship, those answers may finally be examined in a courtroom. David Burke, known professionally as D4vd, has pleaded not guilty. The judge has ordered him to stand trial, and the next chapter will be decided not by social media, but by evidence. As this case moves forward, the biggest question remains: will prosecutors be able to prove exactly what happened to Celeste Rivas Hernandez beyond a reasonable doubt? Only a trial can answer that.